of what I've been mentioning in my past two speeches. These medical regulations implement an amendment that was passed into law back in 2017 when cannabis use was made legal for medical purposes. Unfortunately, it wasn't until earlier this year that the medical regulations implementing those amendments entered into force. And now these regulations provide for everything concerning the various links of the supply chain for medical use, everything from seed to sale. This morning we're gonna discuss the seed part of that expression, and more specifically, what do you need to apply for a growing permit, what you can do with a growing permit, and whom you have to deal with when applying for a growing permit. Please, if you have any questions, make sure you write them down on the chat. Unfortunately, we're not gonna have time this session for a Q&A, but I'm gonna write down my email in the chat, and I'll be most happy to answer all your inquiries in private starting next week. Here is my email. Well, let's get started. Firstly, what do you need the growing permit for? Of course, for growing cannabis for medical use, but there are many purposes behind your. There may be many purposes behind your business plan. You can either want to grow for research purposes, R&D, either for industrial, for eventual industrial mass production, or R&D in order to undergo scientific research. The other possibility is that you grow for eventual processing into medicine. Yesterday, I was discussing the medical regulations as applicable to the pharmaceutical industry. Well, it will be to sell that plant to be processed by all these big pharmaceutical companies, extract the cannabinoids, and eventually come up with products. Okay, that's what, in a strict interpretation, the medical regulations provide for. There is, however, a third possibility, and we will be happy to discuss that with any of you eventually, that the growing permit doesn't only work for that. That's what one of the provisions say, but you could also apply for a growing permit in order to supply the plant as raw material. You can only grow for raw material production purposes. That is not exactly contained in the section devoted to the growing license in the medical regulations. You have to reach that conclusion by reading the whole medical regulations. I'm not going to get legal technical here. The point is that you can also grow for primary production, and that's what is important: primary mass production. All right. Now, what exactly do you need? And this is the tricky part to apply for a growing permit. Firstly, growing permits and any previous permits or certifications attached thereof are managed and are issued by either the Ministry of Agriculture itself or by the agencies depending upon or that form part of the Ministry of Agriculture. Right? This is important because dealing with these various agencies is what determines the time it takes you to get your file ready, the time the various agencies or the ministry itself take to entertain your application, and the time it's going to take you to get your approved license. That is why again we advise you to start getting prepared as soon as possible. As of now, you cannot go this coming Monday and apply for a growing license because the Ministry of Agriculture is still enjoying a grace period in which it is developing all the necessary internal guidelines and rules for us to apply for the growing license. It is also instructing its agencies to come up with the necessary scientific criteria to ensure quality and traceability of all the vegetable material that is going to be covered by the growing licenses. However, this is going to change in June. So better start getting ready earlier. Okay. So what do you need? What do you need to apply for this permit? You need a written application. Right now, there is no specific form to apply for this permit. So you just have to write an open letter, an open application. We can help you with that. Again, it is a good idea that because licenses are not transferable, you set up a Mexican company first in order to apply for the license. You also have to point out what you're going to use the vegetable material you grow for, either for scientific research purposes or for mass production purposes. Okay. Again, this is a matter of interpretation because we will be happy to file applications that enable you to grow cannabis for primary production purposes for medical use. You also have to state the amount of seed you're going to grow, the variety, and its origin. You need to have control books. You need to file a manual of good agronomical practices. You need to provide a map of the land you're asking the growing license for, and that map has to be drafted under the Universal Transverse Mercator Coordinates, the international system, the international coordinate system. You need to provide a very detailed manual of all the contention or confining measures that you are going to implement to prevent pollution, escape, or dissemination of cannabis species or varieties therefrom. This is important because under the current regulations for medical use, only indoor growing is allowed. All right, which leads me to the next requisites. You also need to provide plans and the specific technical characteristics of the facilities, the indoor facilities where you intend to grow cannabis. Okay, and that includes plans, the necessary technical and physical barriers to prevent dissemination, the materials you're going to use to build the facilities. Those facilities shall only have one access door. You need to have a specific warehousing area where seeds are perfectly guarded, so on and so forth. And last but not least, and this is the most important, I'm just mentioning the most general requirements. But last but not least, the most important requirement is that you have to provide the certification and the document specifying the species and variety of the cannabis seed you're importing. This leads me to talk about a couple of agencies that form part of the Ministry of Agriculture, but that you will have to deal with prior to applying to the growing permit. First, we have to talk about the National Agricultural Health, Safety, and Quality Service. Okay, those are in charge of monitoring all the sanitary or phytosanitary measures and risks in the country. Okay, the other agency is the National Seed Inspection and Certification Service. You have to deal with these two agencies first to see if the seeds you are importing, is registered in the national seeds registrar, and if it is not, you need to apply for a certification of the seed you're importing. Okay, those are two separate formalities. Those are two separate applications, and you need to have that ready. Otherwise, your application for a growing license will be rejected. It will not be complete. This is of utmost importance. I can't insist enough on first dealing with these two agencies before applying to the growing permit. Now, import and export, and this is important because a lot of people that come to us think that it's gonna be rather easy to find either seed suppliers or raw material suppliers here in the country. As of now, and as far as we know, there are no cannabis raw material suppliers in Mexico. So for starters, seeds or any other vegetable material will definitely have to be imported. The medical regulations also provide for that. You can import raw materials and vegetable material even though you cannot export them. That's because the government knows that we don't have that within the country just yet. All the documents, needless to say, but I will say that for the benefit of those people who are listening to us for the first time, all those documents that prove the origin, the variety, and the innocuousness, I mean, the lack of sanitary or phytosanitary risks of the seeds, issued by the equivalent of the Minister of Agriculture in your country of origin, all those documents will have to be translated and legalized in order to be taken into consideration by the Mexican government. That will entail additional time and expense. Although, as far as I know, since Mexico and the U.S. are both parties to the Hague Convention on the apostille, apostilla in Spanish, that means a fast-track legalization process that could take that could take lesser time. I will really focus on securing the registration and the inspection, the registration and the certification of your seeds. That's going to be the part of the application process that is going to be most time consuming. All right. So now back to import and export. You can import anything you need to set up your growing facilities. Okay, from vegetable material, your implements, your hardware. There are no restrictions as to the capital, as to capital entry or retrieval as a result of these operations. The thing is that once you grow cannabis, you have to sell it to someone within the country with due license, preferably someone who is licensed to process cannabis for medical use. And indeed, the growing license also provides for an ancillary authorization to perform these activities: commercialization, transportation, warehousing, so long as you do it to take care of the crop, and you sell to the next link in the productive chain. So that would be basically the legal framework applicable to the growing permit. There is I don't know if you I think I'm gonna have time to answer a few questions here then. Oh, okay, Amy. Amy, you're asking for SOPs. Please clarify because I know many applications of the acronym SOP. Could you please write it down, Amy? Right. Thank you. So what you're referring to is a research protocol, and that is indeed required. That is indeed required when you are growing for research research purposes. That's another prerequisite. In that you need to have your research protocol authorized before you're even able to apply for a growing license. How do you ensure as a company that your work product is protected? We do licensing. We do NDAs, non-disclosure agreements that you need to sign. And we can also help you with that, but you need to sign with the individual or the research institution that is helping you with the drafting the research protocol. Now, Carolina, in regards to location, she's asking me if there are any limitations. There are no, I wouldn't call them limitations, but it is true that growing licenses are attached to the land. That means if you have plots of land located in several states, you will need to apply for a growing license for each and every one of them. Are there any vertical farms out there? No, not yet. Although this is a very good question. We're already receiving inquiries from clients that are intending to develop vertical farms. I mean, this is going to happen, and this is a trend that is going to become more pronounced as the new law governing recreational and industrial use enters into force. Can seeds be imported from the U.S.? No, Chris. As of now, no vegetable material can be imported from the U.S. We recommend Canada or indeed Colombia, because as long as cannabis is federally prohibited in the U.S., we're not going to be able to import anything here. And not only because of American law, but because under these medical regulations, we are prevented from importing anything, not just vegetable material, from countries where export is prohibited. Are there many growers in Mexico, Alfonso? Yes, but right now they are not legal. It is possible that with legalization, many are going to try to go legal, and that's why we do not advise to source from these people, because of course, since they are not operating under the law, you can't attest or there is no way you can find out about their quality or traceability requirements they are following either. Alfonso. Yes, exactly, Alfonso. It's exactly, thank you. It's exactly what I've just answered. Amy, if you could please clarify how does the plant grow, what amendments, what equipment I am using. I'm not sure I follow your question. If you could please clarify, I'm gonna move on. Where do you get a license or from whom? You get a license from the Ministry of Agriculture, but you have to comply with several requirements, mainly from the research protocol. If you grow cannabis for research purposes, that is approved by COFEPRIS. But if you need to have your seed registered and certified, you have to deal with the agencies stemming from the Ministry of Agriculture, namely the National Agricultural Health, Safety and Quality Committee, and the National Seed Inspection and Certification Agency. Once you have that, the license itself is going to be issued by the Ministry of Agriculture. Yes, Ugur, only indoor growing farms are permitted for medical use. We are expecting that outdoor growing is also going to be allowed for recreational purposes, for adult use, but so long as that is not passed into law, we cannot confirm anything. Rules indicating the size of indoor grows that will be permitted. No, that's exactly what the Minister of Agriculture is working on. Yes, physical limitations, for example, distance from the city, location of the indoor facilities. That's a very good question, Carolina. So far, no, there are no specific provisions of that. That is also going to be the matter of specific guidelines. Right now, the regulations just state that that the facilities have to be located at a reasonable distance from urban centers, so as to prevent any potential spreading of cannabis vegetable material. As for the physical limitations, the only ones that are provided for are in that provision governing the application process for the growing license application process. The total area spanning the facilities, where exactly they are going to be located. They are talking about the facilities having a fence, but they just say that you need to have a fence surrounding the facilities, the growing facilities. You need to have one door. You need to have a confining area. You need to have something preventing insects from getting into the facilities, either through the door or through the vents, through the ventilation system. You need a double door hatch, things like that. As you see, they are very, very general. We expect the guidelines to be more detailed in that regard. But truth be told, that doesn't mean that starting June, we're going to be prevented from applying if we do not have those guidelines. It is the government's job to come up with those guidelines. Come in June, that it becomes fully legal because the grace period expires. We apply, and if the government doesn't entertain our application because they don't have the guidelines to entertain it, because they don't have the detailed requirements to see whether we meet them, then we file an amparo action to force them to answer, and that's how we're going to force them to come up with those guidelines. Amy, you found that when you were in the type of information. Yes, this is a very good point you're raising, Amy. Yes, when you have your cultivation plan, you must include what might be considered trade secrets. That is not specifically provided for in the medical regulations. Like I said, the medical regulations are very general, but yes, we do advise that that when you file your cultivation plan, I mean, the government has a duty of confidentiality, but then again, you never know who else is going to have access to your cultivation plans. So, and your cultivation plan is also going to be seen by the one who drafts your research protocol, if that you so need. Okay. So yes, this is an intellectual property issue, and that has to be protected through the IP law and via the relevant contracts. So how do you grow a consistent product all the time? Yes, we expect that they are going to be requiring this type of information, the standards of protocol, and not only related to research. Yes, those standards are going to be. We expect that they are going to be required, but we do not know in which terms they are going to require those standards because the guidelines haven't been created yet. That's the main problem. Yes, we expect that, and but yes, when it comes to trade secrets, we will have to you will have to retain additional counsel to ensure additional protection, even though agencies have a duty of confidentiality before all applicants. Now, to import seeds, checking export laws from the seed providing countries also mandatory? Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's and you have to make sure that as a buyer, that the seller has everything in order. Like I said, and Alfonso was also pointing that out. It is better to try to import from countries where you know that export is fully legal. If you want to import, you must also have to be registered as an importer. That is that is a matter of another permit But what happens, and I didn't mention that, because if you wanna import, you need to state what you're importing for, which in this case presupposes that you need a growing license first. But yes, that is true. You need to be registered as an importer, and if you're not, you need to associate yourself with someone who is. How many U.S. cannabis companies are getting involved in the industry? Here, you mean for growing purposes? So far, I have seen few. Right now, they're in the talks. The minimum control test to ensure the quality of the plants and how they are carried out. Those right now are being developed by the National Agricultural Health, Safety and Quality Service, unfortunately. Another thing I was mentioning is not exactly part of the growing license application process as such, but it is part of the application materials. If you are growing for mass production purposes, I mean, if you are growing to eventually process cannabis to create medicine, you also need to have your health registration for the end product in order, because they will almost certainly ask you for it. So any other questions? I am sorry that your questions are very specific. Unfortunately, given the current legal landscape, the requirements and the application process, how it's going to be carried out, it's still very general. It's still very general. I would like to point out, however, that come June, your inquiries, and we will really starting to help people filing their applications, because so far, and this is important for you as growers people, the only requirements that are law right now are the ones contained in the medical regulations. If those are general, and if the Ministry of Agriculture and the relevant agencies haven't issued more detailed guidelines we have to comply with, then we are only bound to comply with the general requirements, and the government is going to be obligated to receive our application and entertain it. And if they don't, that's what we're here for. But our right is to have a growing license if we fulfill the requirements. If those are the only requirements available, then those are the only ones we're bound to follow. Well, Amy, I didn't want to say this. I do not think they are going to be ready. They are going to be ready in the 90-day grace period. That's my personal opinion. Surprises can happen. Right now, we're seeing a lot of political will to get this through. But it is true that agencies, and I have mentioned this before, Amy, you have also attended my previous speeches. Agencies are underfunded, agencies are undermanned, and they're utterly uneducated cannabis-wise. So I wouldn't be surprised if agencies are actually waiting for us to send applications their way so that they see so they see and get ideas as to how to regulate in order to do their job. I'm unsure what your company does. If you could please let me know. Perhaps I could provide a more specific answer, Amy. Chris, is there a distinction between THC and CBD seeds import laws? No. Well, first off, we're gonna follow the international 1% standard, not the 0.3% to determine the psychoactiveness of cannabis. Secondly, no, there is no distinction in the import laws, and that is because both products and the raw materials used to come up with those products are defined by the end use, by the use we give them. So a medicine, since a medicine can or a cannabis product can be considered for medical use regardless of the THC percentage or the CBD percentage, the same criterion applies to seeds. So yes, there is no distinction. Oh yes, absolutely. What you can do to help them? You can first off, and this is important. We know that there are some members of the public service attending the summit. You can organize events similar to this one. We will be happy to help you, Amy. You can also send letters, and most importantly, you can help people. You can help people who are actually drafting their applications. Like I said, there is no specific form as of now, so you write an open letter. So all the supporting arguments, scientific literature, standards the government should follow should be contained in those application letters. So yeah, I think that's your market niche. Any other questions, comments? Right now, can cannabis companies in the States get involved in the industry? Down there? We're gonna need seeds. We're gonna need seeds. If you the problem is that you cannot export them. If you can find a way to send them through Canada so that the country of origin is Canada, that might work. And I am saying this because I know that many US cannabis companies have strong partnerships or even subsidiaries in Canada. So I don't know if that's your case, Alfonso, but that might work. Many companies, some of them have, some of the representatives have also spoken in the summit, actually have some facilities in North America, but they're sourced their materials from Colombia or from some other country precisely to avoid that. Another thing in which cannabis growing companies can get involved, and this has been actual cases we've been receiving, is with the provision of technical expertise and know-how. As of now, I can tell you an actual case we're working right now, where we are trying to secure a partnership between a Mexican grower of a Mexican company deeply involved in the agribusiness who wants to expand into cannabis, doesn't know how, so he's looking for a partner in the US who can provide capital, expertise, but especially expertise and know-how, so that they can either operate the land, buy their crop for eventual cannabis processing in Mexico. So that could be another way of entering that market for U.S. companies that doesn't necessarily involve exporting vegetable material. So start because of that. Our strongest advice is always try, please, to start reaching out. We can help you with that. Start reaching out with potential Mexican partners. As you can see with us, we don't have language or cultural barriers. You're very welcome. How can you seek support from the US or Canada-based companies to invest in your brand? You mean, Fabrizio, I assume you mean for growing purposes. Well, this summit is a very good place to start because you get to know each other. Um, another, what's your brand about? Okay, CBD oil. Okay. Right now, perhaps you haven't attended some of my other talks, but right now, the CBD oil, we will rather wait for the new law to governing recreational purposes to enter into law, because CBD oil is very difficult. Right now, medical use is the only legal thing, and CBD oil is very hard to have it qualify as medicine, so as to freely commercialize it in the country. That said, there are many cannabis companies out there who are already trying to reach out to seek partnerships for when the new law enters into force. Many of those companies actually read our blog, the Canna Law blog. So whenever you see, we usually publish our posts in social media, in all social media, on LinkedIn, etc. And in the comments, a lot of people try to reach out for exactly for the same thing as you. They are looking for people to talk to. Amy is also promoting, trying to reach out. But yeah, in the comments, to our post publications, you can find people who might be willing to talk to you, Fabrizio. Yes, certainly. I'm gonna write that down. It's the Canna Law blog. I'm also following the Mexican cannabis legalization process in that blog. So yes, feel to read whenever you have time. Any other question, comment? Great, thank you, Alfonso. Okay, any other question regarding the basic requirements to apply for a growing license? Again, and I'll say this again. This is because this is important. If you want to grow for research purposes, you need a research protocol approved prior to applying for the license. If you want to grow for industrial purposes, for mass production, for medical use, you need the health registration for the product you will use. You will use the cannabis you're growing with. If you're importing seeds, you need to have them registered and certified, and that's going to be the most cumbersome and time-consuming process, but it is important because of that very reason to undertake it early. Now, Daniel Basurto, which will be the legal medicines? There's no there's no specific answer to that. The general rule is that so long as your product qualifies as medicine per the standard set forth in the general health law, it will obtain a health registration as a drug, as a prescription drug, and therefore it can be freely imported into and commercialized in Mexico. Those requirements are quality, safety, or innocuousness, and efficacy. And the basic requirement for any medicine to be considered as such is what they call the pharmaceutical form. Either a pill or any other substance that stabilizes the active ingredient and therefore enables you to create medicine. Those are the ones that are going to be legal. And it is important to mention that if you fulfill those requirements, which is not easy, you can obtain the HERB registration even if in your country, your product is not considered medicine as such. Of course, the ones with the best chance are gonna be the ones that are FDA approved. I'm not talking about CBD products. I'm talking about, for instance, Epidiolex, but that's gonna change soon. For all those who are intending to grow cannabis to process it into CBD oil, I think it's gonna be easier for you guys to wait for the new federal law for the regulation of cannabis to enter into force, because the recreational use is going to be the criterion applicable for those products, and therefore you will not need to prove that you're a medicine anymore to commercialize into the country. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Well, you have my email. You can also find more information about us in www.harrisbricken.com. We'll be happy to assist you alongside our team in various jurisdictions. This talk has been brought to you by Logic and Harris Bricken. Thank you. Thank you very much. Fabrizio, more information on growing licenses? Sure. Feel free to reach out to me. My email is above. We'll be happy to have to talk to you further on an initial consultation. Thank you. Make sure to continue attending very interesting conferences today and tomorrow. I'll be moderating later on today. Have a great day. Good morning. Welcome again to the Mexico Cannabis Summit.